line segment in a triangle joining the midpoints of two sides is parallel to the third side and half of the third side. In this triangle, it is given that AB is equal to BD and D is the midpoint of AB. In this side, AE is equal to CE and E is the midpoint of AC. In this triangle, we have to prove that DE is parallel to BC and DE is half of BC. First of all, we'll start with the construction. We'll extend the line segment DE till F such that DE is equal to EF and we'll join CF. Let's start with the proving. In triangle AED and triangle CEF, we'll prove that DE is equal to EF. This can be proved by the construction. And angle 1 is equal to angle 2 as it is vertically opposite angle. And line AE is equal to CF because E is the midpoint. Thus, we can say that triangle AED is congruent to triangle CEF by SAS rule of congruency. After that, we can say that angle 3 is equal to angle 4 as they are alternate angles. AB is parallel to CF and AD is equal to CF by CPCT. BD is parallel to CF as AB is parallel to CF. Now we'll start proving that DF is parallel to BC because the opposite sides of parallelogram are parallel and opposite sides of parallelogram are also equal. As DF is parallel to BC and DE is parallel to BC, we can say that DF is equal to BC. DE is equal to EF and DF is double of DE. So 2DE is equal to BC and DE is half of BC, hence proved.
What is probability? Probability is the way of expressing knowledge of belief that an event will occur on chance. Probability originated from the Latin word meaning approval. Probability is the measure of how likely some event will occur, a number expressing the ratio of favorable cases to the whole number or cases. For example, the chances of getting a heads or a tails by tossing a coin is 50%. Sample space. The set of outcomes of an experiment is called sample space. Event. One or more outcomes of an experiment. Sample point. Each element of the sample space is called sample point. Types of probability. There are three major types of probabilities: theoretical probability, experimental probability, axiomatic probability. Theoretical probability. It is based on the possible chances of something to happen. The theoretical probability is mainly based on the reasoning behind probability. For example, if a coin is tossed, the theoretical probability of getting a head will be 1/2. Experimental probability. It is based on the basis of the observations of an experiment. The experimental probability can be calculated based on the number of possible outcomes by the total number of trials. For example, if a coin is tossed 10 times and heads is recorded 6 times, then the experimental probability for heads is 6/10 or 3/5. Axiomatic probability. In axiomatic probability, a set of rules or axioms are set which applies to all types. These axioms are set by Kolmogorov and are known as Kolmogorov's 3 axioms. With the axiomatic approach to probability, the chances of occurrence or non-occurrence of the events can be quantified.
of cells having similar origin, structure and function. They are of two types, plant tissue and animal tissue. The plant tissues. They are of two types, meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. The meristematic tissue. They are formed of actively dividing young cells. They are responsible for the growth of plant. They are on the growing tips of the plants. They are of three types, apical meristem, lateral meristem and intercalary meristem. The apical meristem. These are the meristematic tissue which are found on the roots, the shoots and the stem or the branches. The lateral meristem. These are found in the middle of stem and roots. The intercalary meristem. These are found at the bases of leaves or internodes. Now we have the permanent tissue. The permanent tissue. They are made up of mature cells. They are incapable of dividing. They are of two types, simple tissue and complex tissue. The simple tissue. They are made up of only one type of cell. They are of three types, parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. The complex tissue. They are made up of more than one type of cell. On the basis, they are of two types, xylem and phloem. Xylem. It is a complex permanent tissue which is responsible for conducting minerals and water to the plants. And phloem, it conducts food to the plants. In unicellular organisms such as amoeba, we know that single cell perform all the basic functions. But in the multicellular organisms such as the plants and animals, they show division of labor. Thank you.
Good evening to one and all. Today, I, Vidika Yadav of class 9, am going to tell you about the laws of motion. There are total 3 laws of motion and they were proposed by the great scientist Sir Isaac Newton. Let us read the first law of motion. The first law says, every body remains in a state of rest or uniform motion unless acted upon by a net external force. So here in this figure you can see that a boy is moving in a uniform motion and suddenly a net external force, that is the stone, comes in between and then he stops moving and falls over. Second law of motion tells us that the amount of acceleration of a body is proportional to the acting force and inversely proportional to the mass of the body, which tells us that the acceleration is directly proportional to the force applied and it is inversely proportional to the mass. The third law of motion tells us for every action there is an equal but opposite reaction. For example, here this is an object A and this is the object B. A force. For example, here we can see this is the object A and this is the object B. Suppose if an object A exerts a force on object B, then object B will exert an equal but the opposite force.
Today we are going to discuss about the physical divisions of India. The physical divisions of India are divided into 6 broad categories according to their physiographic forms. They are the Himalayan mountains, the northern plains, the peninsular plateau, the Indian desert, the coastal plains, and the icelands. The first physical division is the Himalayan ranges. The Himalayan ranges are basically divided into 3 parts: the Himachal, the Himadri, and the Shivalis. They nearly stretch about 2,500 kilometers from Kashmir to Arunachal Pradesh. Second physical division is the northern plains. The northern plains are basically formed by the 3 major rivers, the Indus, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra. For nearly thousands of years, these rivers, along with their tributaries, have deposited the alluvial soil on the foothills of Himalayas, forming the most fertile plains, the northern plains. The third division of India is the Peninsular Plateau. The Peninsular Plateau has been formed by the tectonic movement of the oldest landmass, the Gondwana land. Peninsular Plateau is also known as the Deccan Plateau. It is the world's largest plateau. The division is the desert. These deserts lie on the west part of the Aravalli Hills. They nearly receive rainfall less than 50 mm per annum. Fourth division is the coastal plains. The coastal plains lie on the downside of the northern plains. They nearly stretch about 7,000 kilometers and can be divided into 2 parts, the western parts and the eastern parts.
The last physical division is islands. The islands are broadly divided into 2 groups. The first is Lakshadweep, which lie in the Arabian Sea, and the Andaman and Nicobar, which lie in Bay of Bengal.
Calc is spreadsheet. A spreadsheet is a software tool that allows you to calculate, manipulate, and analyze a set of given numbers. Each spreadsheet is made up of a worksheet. A worksheet is a grid of cells made up of horizontal rows and vertical columns. Many worksheets combined under a file is called a workbook. OpenOffice Calc has 65,536 rows and 1024 columns. The data is plotted in a cell, which is formed by the intersection of row and column. This intersection of row and column gives a cell its unique cell edges. Now, in Calc, three types of data can be entered in a worksheet. These are numbers, the numeric entries, text. These entries are neither numeric nor formulas, and the formulas. A formula is a sequence of values, cell addresses, names, functions, or operators in a cell that produces a new value from existing values. The most important software involving calculations is a spreadsheet. To perform calculations, there are some useful functions, which are the predefined formulas that perform calculations by specific values and arguments. So let us see the various types of functions in OpenOffice Calc. The first function is sum. This function adds all the numbers in a range of cells. We will enter the syntax, which will contain equal to sum along with the range of cells we want the sum of. Then we will press enter. Here we got the sum of all the values in the range we had entered. The next function is average. This function returns the average, that is the arithmetic mean of the arguments. We will enter the syntax, which will contain equal to average with the range of cells we want the average of. Then we will press enter. And here is the average of all the values in the range we had entered. Coming on to the next, we have max. This function returns the largest value in the set of values we enter. We will enter the syntax, which will contain equal to max along with the range of cells which we want the maximum of. Then we will press enter. And here is the maximum values of all the values in the range we had entered. The next function, min. This function gives the smallest value in the set of values which we enter. We will enter the syntax, which will contain equal to min along with the range of cells which we want the minimum of. Then we will press enter. And here is the minimum value of all the values in the range we had entered. And our last function is count. This function counts the number of cells that contain numbers and numbers within the list of arguments. We will enter the syntax, which will contain equal to count along with the range of cells in which we want to count the numeric entries. Then we will press enter. And here is the number of cells which contain numeric entries.
सुप्रभात। आज मैं आपके समक्ष अलंकार प्रस्तुत करती हूँ। अलंकार का अर्थ है आभूषण या श्रृंगार। जिस प्रकार एक स्त्री आभूषण पहनने से आकर्षित बन जाती है, उसी प्रकार अलंकार के प्रयोग से एक वाक्य आकर्षित हो जाता है। अलंकार दो शब्दों का समूह है, अलंक और का। अलंकार के दो भेद होते हैं, शब्दालंकार और अर्थालंकार।
शब्दालंकार शब्दों में पाए जाने वाले अलंकार को हम शब्दालंकार कहते हैं। शब्दालंकार के तीन भेद होते हैं, अनुप्रास, यमक, श्लेष। अनुप्रास अलंकार, नभ पर चमचम चपला चमकी, यहाँ चा की आवृत्ति बार बार की जा रही है, इसे हम अनुप्रास अलंकार कहते हैं। यमक अलंकार, काली घटा का घमन घटा, यहाँ घटा शब्द का प्रयोग दो दो बार किया जा रहा है, पर यहाँ अर्थ भिन्न भिन्न है। श्लेष अलंकार। मधुबन की छाती को देखो, सूखी इसकी कितनी कलियां। यहाँ कलियां शब्द का प्रयोग एक बार किया गया है, पर इसके अर्थ भिन्न भिन्न हैं।
अर्थालंकार। जहाँ वाक्यों में अर्थों से चमत्कार उत्पन्न होता है उसे अर्थालंकार कहते हैं। अर्थालंकार के 5 भेद होते हैं: उपमा, रूपक, उत्प्रेक्षा, मानवीकरण और अतिशयोक्ति। उपमा अलंकार। चेहरा है मानो झील में हंसता हुआ कमल। यहाँ चेहरे की तुलना झील के कमल से की गई है। रूपक अलंकार। आय, महंत, बसंत। यहाँ महंत और बसंत की तुलना एक ही शब्द में की गई है। उत्प्रेक्षा अलंकार। सीता का मुख मानो चंद्रमा समान। यहाँ सीता के मुख की तुलना चंद्रमा से की गई है। मानवीकरण। यहाँ पर मानवीकरण मेघ आए बन ढन के सवर के। यहाँ पर मेघ के आने की तुलना मानवीय भावों में की गई है। अतिशयोक्ति। हनुमान की पूंछ पे लगन न पाई आग, लंका नगरी जल गई, गए निशाचर भाग। यहाँ पर इस स्थिति को बहुत बढ़ा चढ़ा के बताया गया है, इसलिए इसे अतिशयोक्ति अलंकार कहते हैं। धन्यवाद।
Hello and welcome. This is Snigdha Rai and you're watching your favorite show In Conversation With. Childhood memories are one of the most cherished moments in our lives, and to describe the beauty of the same, today I am in conversation with my dad. Welcome to my show. So now, without further ado, let me start with my segment. My first question for you is, as a child, what all games did you play at that time?
We did not have computers or smartphones like nowadays. We enjoyed playing field games like cricket, hopscotch, football, kabaddi, kho-kho and few other physical activities as well.
What kind of television programs did you watch?
Not many cartoons used to be aired on the television. I used to watch TV very rarely, especially on Sundays. Shows like Alice in the Wonderland, Ramayana, Mahabharat were some of our childhood shows we enjoyed watching.
Well, that's quite different from our times.
Hello everyone. Today I'm conducting an interview with my mom, Tamanna Saeed. So let's start with the question. What were the things your parents did not like? आपके माँ बाप को नहीं पसंद थी उस जमाने में?
बेवजह घर से बाहर जाना, बाहर घूमना। बाहर जाने की मनाही नहीं थी, लेकिन बेवजह जैसे आजकल बच्चे करते हैं, उस जमाने में ऐसा नहीं था।
Which was the thing you were good at in your school? आप ऐसी कौन सी चीजों में अच्छी थी अपने स्कूल में?
स्पोर्ट में।
स्पोर्ट्स में आपको स्पोर्ट्स पसंद है?
मुझे बहुत पसंद था
तो आप सबसे ज्यादा कौन से स्पोर्ट्स में?
बैडमिंटन।
तो आप ऐसा क्या मानती हैं कि आजकल लड़कियां जो पार्टी करती हैं, क्लब जाती हैं, पब जाती हैं, तो ये क्या आप मानती हैं गलत है? लड़कियों का ज्यादा ही
नहीं, गलत नहीं ना, इसको गलत नहीं कहेंगे। उस टाइम में भी लड़की पार्टीज करती थी, क्लब जाती थी, लेकिन आज पेरेंट्स को बिना बताए वो काम हो रहा है। पेरेंट्स को आप बता दोगे तो कोई आपको इतना पाबंदी में नहीं रखा जा रहा है। अगर आप बता के जाओगे, अपने पेरेंट्स से कह के जाओगे, तो ये कोई पाबंदी वाली बात नहीं ना कि आज बच्चे करते सब करते हैं, हम लोग ने भी कहीं ना नहीं करा है, लेकिन अब ये बहुत ज्यादा हो गया। उस समय एक लिमिट थी इस चीज की।
ऐसी कोई एडवाइस आप आजकल के बच्चों को देना चाहें?
एडवाइस यही है कि माँ बाप का यकीन बनाए रखिए उनको। अगर आप कहीं जा रहे हो, लेकिन माँ बाप को बता के जाओ, माँ बाप से पूछ के जाओ। मना कोई नहीं करता किसी को, लेकिन एक माँ बाप को ये रहता है कि हाँ हमारा बच्चा कहीं जा रहा है तो मुझे पता है वो कहाँ जा रहा है, किन लोगों के साथ में। कभी कभी ऐसा होता है, कुछ ऐसी चीजें हो जाती है जो हमें नहीं पता है हमारे बच्चों ने क्या किया है। तो एडवाइस उनको यही है कि हम अपने माँ बाप को सब बता के जाए।
Good morning everyone, I am Ali and today I am presenting a questionnaire to my father, so let's begin. My first question from you is that when you were a teenager, which means my age, what was it that your parents wanted you to do?
Actually, when in class 9th, at that time my parents don't want anything, and they decided after I got first division in class 10. So I got good marks in high school. So because of that, then my dad told that if you are good in studies, I want that you should be head of whatever age.
So what is the mantra that took you to where you are now to achieve success?
It's a hard work.
Hard work.
In any field, if you are working for 15 to 16 hours, you can achieve.
So I hope you all enjoyed the interview. Thank you.
Hello friends, today I am here to take a small interview of the most important person in my life. That's my mother. So mom, let's start. As we know that there is a wide generation gap
आपके एज की थी और भी मेरे जैसे दूसरे बच्चे, सभी को मोस्टली 100 रुपीज पर मंथ ही पॉकेट मनी के रूप में मिलते थे.
Okay, so that's a quite small amount if we compare it to our times. And my next question is that which is the favorite place which you would like to go or you have visited and liked the most?
मैं केरल घूमने जाना चाहती हूँ. काफी मैंने जगह घूमा है, पर मुझे केरल देखने की बहुत ज्यादा इच्छा है, क्योंकि मुझे
Is there any particular reason for that to go going and visiting Kerala?
केरल में जो वहाँ का नैसर्गिक सौंदर्य है, इतना हरियाली से भरा, वो सब मुझे नेचुरल जगह पर रहना मुझे बहुत पसंद है. इस वजह से मुझे केरल जाने का